There was a time when Angie Dickinson was untouchable, Hollywood's shimmering goddess, a woman who could silence a room with a single glance. But behind the glamour, behind the perfectly painted smile, was a story darker than anyone ever dared to tell. She was once called the most dangerous woman in Hollywood, not because of what she did, but because of what she refused to become. At 93, Angie has nothing left to hide and nothing left to lose. For decades she played the game, smiled through betrayal, obeyed the rules of men who controlled the lights and the cameras. But now the gloves are off, and the woman who once defined allure is ready to speak. This is not a confession. This is a reckoning. 5 men, 5 legends, 5 ghosts who shaped her story with power, lies, and silence. The truth, as Angie tells it, isn't glamorous. It's raw, painful, and long overdue. Before fame, before the flashing lights, Angie Dickinson was just a small-town girl from North Dakota, shy, ambitious, and armed with nothing but a notebook full of poetry and a quiet fire that demanded to be seen. She had no family ties to power, no formal training, only a dream. Her beauty was striking, yes, but her presence was something else. Calm, magnetic, dangerous in a world where women were only allowed to shine if men gave them permission. And when Hollywood came calling, she stepped into its golden cage willingly, unaware of how much it would take from her. The first name she speaks is one the world adored, Burt Bacharach, the genius composer whose melodies defined an era. To the world they were the dream couple, the golden pair of glamour and genius. The tabloids called it a fairy tale. Angie believed it for a while too. But behind the walls of their Beverly Hills home, the illusion began to crumble. Burt was cold, distant, always chasing perfection in music but blind to the cracks forming in their marriage. He was never there. Missed calls, cancelled dinners, unexplained trips. Angie forgave him again and again, convincing herself that genius came at a cost. Then came their daughter, Nikki, a beautiful child born with a developmental disorder. For Angie, life changed instantly. She devoted herself to Nikki with fierce, endless love, but Burt couldn't handle it. He drifted further away, disappearing into tours and studios, while Angie stayed up through the night learning every therapy, every treatment that might give her daughter a better life. When Nikki was hospitalized after a severe episode, Angie called Burt in tears, begging him to come home. His reply was ice cold. "Will this delay my flight to Europe?" That was the night something inside her broke. Years later, when Nikki passed away, Burt didn't show up to the funeral. No flowers, no call. Just silence. Angie delivered her daughter's eulogy alone. She had always fought alone. For years she said nothing. She didn't write a tell-all or seek revenge. She simply endured. But endurance comes at a cost. The next man wasn't a husband, he was a gatekeeper. His name was Jack Webb, a television titan whose word could make or end a career. When Angie first met him, she was young and hopeful, auditioning for a new crime series. He praised her talent, said she had something special. She left that meeting convinced she had the part. But the next day the call came. The role was gone, no explanation. Later she learned why. Jack had made an advance. Angie declined politely, professionally. But rejection didn't sit well with powerful men. Within 24 hours, 3 of her upcoming roles vanished. Calls went unanswered. Scripts disappeared. She wasn't fired, she was erased, quietly, efficiently. 1 man, 1 decision, 1 silence. The punishment was total. She didn't disappear from the screen overnight, but she was pushed to the margins. The offers that came afterward mocked her talent. Smaller parts, throwaway roles, the kind that whispered, "We haven't forgotten you, but we've moved on." Jack's career soared while hers faded. When he died, he was called a pioneer, a genius. Angie never spoke against him. She wasn't scared, she was realistic. In that world, truth didn't matter. Power did. Then came Frank Sinatra, the man who could make or break anyone with a phone call. To the world, he was charm and class. To Angie, he was a whirlwind. At first, he made her feel seen. Flowers every morning, candle-lit dinners, laughter that made her forget the pain. For a moment, she believed she'd found love again. But love with Frank came with a price: control. He never raised his voice, never struck her. He didn't have to. He controlled her with silence, with threats disguised as affection. When she took a role he didn't like, the script disappeared. When she tried to make a decision without his approval, the offers dried up. One night she was cast in a film that critics were already calling career-defining. But Frank made a single call: keep her in that film and your career ends here. By sunrise she was out. No explanation. Just erasure. It was then she understood what he truly loved. Not her heart, but his power to decide when she could shine. She stayed for years, not out of love, but habit. The kind of quiet captivity, where you forget what freedom feels like. When it ended, his shadow followed her everywhere. But the most suffocating chapter came with Larry King, a man who hid control behind the mask of devotion. After her divorce, she was vulnerable, longing for peace. Larry seemed gentle, protective, different. He listened, or at least she thought he did. Slowly that care became confinement. He wanted to know where she was, who she met, what she did. At first it felt like concern. Then it became surveillance. He read her scripts, questioned her friends, discouraged her from seeing people. She thought he was just overprotective, until she found a microphone hidden in her car. When she confronted him, he smiled and said it was intimacy. That was the moment she knew love had become a prison. One night, after she missed his call during a meeting, she came home to find every photo of them destroyed, her journals torn apart. He stood in the wreckage and said, "If I can't be in your life the way I need to be, I don't want to be in it at all." She didn't cry. She just left, quietly, taking Nikki and vanishing into an apartment where no one could find her. For weeks she lived in silence, trying to remember when love had turned into control. It had happened slowly, disguised as care, and finally there was Johnny Carson, not a lover but a friend. Or so she thought. When he invited her on his show to celebrate her career, she was excited. A rare moment to be honored, not forgotten. The crowd rose to their feet. Applause thundered, lights shimmered. But before she could speak, Johnny leaned in and whispered, "I just saved you from being humiliated. Don't make me regret it." Earlier that day, he'd seen a leaked clip of her mentioning a disgraced producer. He buried it not to protect her, but to control her. On live TV, he praised her for being a woman who knew when to stay quiet. The audience cheered. She smiled for the camera. But inside, she shattered. That night, she realized even friendship in Hollywood was a transaction. After that show, the calls stopped, the invitations disappeared. No scandal, no headlines, just whispers. And in Hollywood, whispers kill faster than knives. Now at 93, Angie Dickinson finally speaks. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. She isn't here to destroy reputations. She's reclaiming her own. Every man she names is a symbol, not of personal revenge, but of a system built to silence women who refuse to bow. For decades, she was told to smile, to be grateful, to stay quiet. But silence doesn't heal, it festers. And now her voice rises not in anger, but in truth. If my story reaches one woman, she says, who feels that same quiet fear, maybe she'll find the courage to walk away sooner than I did. Angie Dickinson's story is more than Hollywood history. It's a mirror held up to an industry that worshipped beauty but feared strength. Behind the glitz and legend lies a woman who endured, who survived, and who finally refuses to be forgotten. Her story is not a confession, it's testimony. And after a lifetime of silence, she's decided that forgetting is no longer an option.